Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome to CG Reacts, and this is how US aircraft carrier defended against Iran's hypersonic missiles. Yeah, this was on Daily Navy. We heard about hypersonic missiles, right? Obviously, there are critics of that. I guess I'm one of them because I don't understand how the technology works yet. I understand how theoretically it works, but I haven't seen it in action, is all I'm going to say. It's one of those things that are like inflated, right? It has like a, like glide phase, which basically goes hypersonic, but it's not hypersonic all the way through. How you supposed to, like, I don't know. There's many elements there which I don't understand. I guess one day we'll see it. USA is making hypersonic missile. I guess they'll make new technology or something. I don't know. But like China's hypersonic missiles that are supposed to sink aircraft carriers. Iran got that. What happened to that? Right? Maybe we'll see how Aegis system whipped his butt, let's just say. Let's watch this one.
A missile traveling at 1 mile every single second, no warning, no second chance, and it is heading straight for the most powerful warship ever built. That is not a movie plot. That is the real threat facing US aircraft carriers right now. China already has missiles in service that travel at over Mach 10. Russia has a ship-launched hypersonic weapon that flew into combat in February.
By the way, the Mach 10 is in like descent phase. Not descent as in like descent from space. That's ballistic missile. But they still go up. Like when it travels, it's not hypersonic. When it like glides down, that's when it's hypersonic.
2024. And the Pentagon has officially admitted in a declassified report that China now holds the world's leading hypersonic missile arsenal.
They have a lot.
Every one of those weapons was designed with one primary target in mind, the American aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
So what happens when one of those missiles is actually launched? What does the US Navy do in the seconds between detection and impact? And here is the question nobody is asking. Is the answer already in place, or is the Navy racing against a clock it might not be able to beat? Stay with me, because the answer is more layered, more expensive, and more surprising than most people realize. To understand how America defends its carriers, you first need to understand why hypersonic missiles are different from anything the Navy has faced before. Ballistic missiles follow a predictable arc. Cruise missiles fly slow enough to track. Hypersonic weapons do neither. They travel at Mach 5 or faster. They glide through the upper atmosphere, and they maneuver mid-flight. You cannot predict where they are going from where they started. At Mach 10, a missile covers roughly 10 miles every single second. From the moment of detection, defenders may have 20 seconds or less to identify, assign a weapon, fire, and intercept. That is the problem. Now here is what America has built to solve it. If you agree that the men and the women of the US Navy deserve every resource America can give them, type US Navy in the comments below. These sailors train for this exact scenario every single day. The first wall, the eyes in the sky. The US Navy does not defend a carrier with one weapon. It defends it with 5 separate layers of protection, each one designed to catch what the previous one missed. Think of it as 5 walls between the incoming missile and the ship. The first and outermost wall is the one most people never think about, the aircraft already in the air. Every carrier strike group operates what the Navy calls a combat air patrol. Fighter jets, primarily the FA-18E and FA-18F Super Hornets, are kept airborne at all times around the clock when the threat level demands it. Flying above them, acting as the eyes of the entire strike group, is the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye. The E-2D is not a fighter. It is not an attack aircraft. It is a flying radar station, and it is one of the most important planes in the entire American military.
There is a reason the whole chain of videos that even I react to, like, F-16 intercepted this, F-18 intercepted this. It's implied that they were patrolling because of something like this. Aircraft carrier always has some kind of a patrols from F-18. I think we're forgetting that F-14 was so good because it had a longer radar that can detect very long distance things, and it had like a long range, one of the first one actually, to fit it with like 100-mile plus range missiles. Was it AMRAAM? I don't know, something advanced basically. That's what made F-14 so deadly back then, right? Because of this, so nothing can come close to aircraft carrier. That still implies today with F-18s and on top of other layers. So if an E-2D Hawkeye, like he said, with an insane range, hundreds of kilometers of range, so anything that moves relatively fast, E-2D Hawkeye will detect it.
Its radar, the ANAPYN, can track threats at ranges exceeding 550 kilometers. At altitude, it has a line of sight that no ship radar can match. It can detect a hypersonic launch far earlier than any vessel on the surface. And through a system called NIFC-CA, the Naval Integrated Fire Control Counter Air Network, it can instantly share that tracking data with every ship, every plane, and every weapon system in the strike group simultaneously. What that means in practice is extraordinary. A destroyer 40 miles away from the carrier can receive a firing solution from the E-2D and launch a missile at a target its own radar has not even seen yet. The whole strike group shoots as one organism, not as individual ships.
Yeah.
That is the first advantage America has built.
I know you don't like me pausing too much, but I have to say that this sounds simple, but it's not. All systems working together is insanely hard to do. I don't know if there are countries like China who can do it as well as America does with their insanely, combined system. Aegis is part of it, but it's just one part of it, defensive structure. But this is a whole network of system. I don't know the name of it, but it talks to satellite, E-2D Hawkeye, F-18, basically in real time, lightning speed.
Second wall, Aegis and the Interceptors. Yeah. The second wall is the Aegis weapon system, and this is where the heavy firepower lives. Positioned across the carrier are Arleigh Burke-class destroyers.
Look at that.
These ships carry the Aegis combat system.
How many are there? Look at that.
One of the most capable missile defense platforms ever built. The newest version comes equipped with the AN-SPY-6 radar, a system so sensitive it is roughly 30 times more capable than the older radar it replaced. That extra sensitivity matters enormously against hypersonic weapons because those weapons fly at lower altitudes than traditional ballistic missiles.
Much
and
lower.
Other radars often lose them in the background clutter.
They're supposed to fly like tomahawks, basically, very low. And there are certain, like Russian ones that they claim are literally water skimming. Implies that they're very low. Basically, it might hit a ship if it encounters it type of low, which I don't know how it works at that speed, but I don't know.
Of the atmosphere. The primary weapons launched from these destroyers against hypersonic threats are the SM-3 Block 2A and the SM-6. The SM-3 Block 2A is the longer range option. It was co-developed with Japan, travels at speeds exceeding Mach 10 itself, and uses what is called a hit-to-kill system. There is no explosive warhead. It physically crashes into the incoming missile at closing speeds so fast that the kinetic energy alone destroys the target. It is designed...
Okay, so it is so accurate that they don't need to worry about, proximity bomb. Like maybe what if there's an error of 5 feet? It's not going to hit it. No. There's not going to be an error of 5 feet. We are going to hit it.
Primarily for the threats in the upper atmosphere or above it. The Pentagon plans to buy 12 more SM-3 Block 2A interceptors in its fiscal year 2026 budget, a clear signal of how serious this threat is being taken. But here's the weapon that the Navy is betting the most on right now, the SM-6. The SM-6 was not originally built for hypersonic defense. It was an air defense missile, but the Navy recognized that it had potential and began upgrading it specifically to handle maneuvering hypersonic targets in the terminal phase.
SM-3 is for like mostly high altitude space related thing, but hypersonic is lower. So you need advanced SM-6 with very fast maneuverability and electronics basically, which America can do.
Meaning the final moments before the impact when the missile is closest and moving fastest. In August 2025, the U.S. Missile Defense Agency officially certified what is called the SM-6 Sea-Based Terminal Increment 3. The agency director, Lieutenant General Heath Collins, announced after a series of tests that ships carrying this upgraded system will be protecting U.S. fleets moving forward. The key tests, codenamed Stellar Banshee, took place on March 24, 2025. The U.S. Pinckney, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, successfully demonstrated the ability to detect, track, and engage an advanced maneuvering hypersonic target in the Pacific Ocean near Kauai, Hawaii. Lieutenant General Collins described this capability with honesty and precision. He called it the last look, one shot is what you got option. That is not marketing language. That is a military officer telling you exactly how tight the margin is.
Yeah.
The third, fourth, and fifth wall, the inner rings. Now here is where the picture gets even more interesting. And this is the part that most coverage misses entirely. The third wall is the ESSM Block 2. This stands for Evolved Sea Sparrow Missile. The upgrade to Block 2 was a critical improvement because it gave the missile its own active radar seeker. The older version required a ship's radar to continuously illuminate the incoming target.
It's portable.
Like holding a flashlight.
You just stick it off, put it on a cargo ship, it's gonna work. Just give it a power. It's portable.
On a moving object so that the missile can follow the light against a target moving at Mach 8 and maneuvering unpredictably. Maintaining the lock is nearly impossible. The Block 2 missile finds the target on its own. It reached full operational capability in 2022 and is now
decent.
standard aboard Burke-class destroyers. Its engagement range is roughly 27 nautical miles, the third ring around the carrier. The fourth wall is the RIM-116 rolling airframe missile, also called RAM. This one sits closer, roughly 5 nautical miles from the carrier. RAM uses a two-stage seeker system.
This is CRAM that we hear about. There are CVIZ, which is the bullet. CRAM is probably this, right?
First, it locks onto the radar emissions coming from the incoming missile itself. It rides those signals like a homing signal. Then, in the final seconds, it switches to infrared guidance, tracking the heat the missile generates. The Block 2 upgrade gave RAM the ability to handle fast maneuvering, low radar cross-section targets. This system is mounted directly on the carrier.
This is for very low targets. The one Russia claims that they have hypersonic missile, sea skimming missile. This would E-2D Hawkeye would detect it, obviously, because it's a long-range one, even if it's sea skimming, because there will be some signature there. So this will be primed it early, right? And as soon as it comes close, 27 whatever mile distance, it will be able to hit it.
Carrier and on some escorts, meaning it is organic. It does not depend on any other ship to do its job. At this point in the engagement, the strike group may have already fired multiple interceptors, but a sufficiently fast, sufficiently maneuverable hypersonic missile could still be coming through, which brings us to the fifth and final wall. The Mk-15 Phalanx CIWS, pronounced CWIZ,
Spray and pray.
a 20mm Gatling gun that fires at roughly 3,000 rounds per minute. It uses a closed-loop radar system that tracks both the incoming target and the outgoing rounds simultaneously, automatically correcting its aim in real time at 1 to 2 nautical miles with a hypersonic missile incoming. This gun has fractions of a second to operate. It is a last ditch. The Navy does not like to rely on it against hypersonics, but it is there, and it fires automatically without requiring a human to pull a trigger. Alongside the Phalanx sits the SEWIP Block 3 system.
Okay, what is the bullet speed of Phalanx? Can it outspeed hypersonic at Mach 10? I don't know. Wait a minute. It's 3.2 Mach, the speed of the bullet. So I don't know how accurate, how good this would be against something like hypersonic missile that's in the glide phase or about to hit phase is probably around Mach 10. But I guess if it detects early, it can happen. I don't know.
System. Surface Electronic Warfare Improvement Program. This is not a gun and it's not a missile. It is a jammer. It attempts to blind or deceive the incoming missile seeker, breaking its lock on the carrier against radar-guided hypersonics. A well-timed burst of electronic interference could send the weapons off course in
Electronic
the final
warfare.
seconds. It is not a guaranteed kill, but every disruption increases survival odds.
Yeah.
The gaps, what the Navy...
Especially if something is traveling at Mach 10, there is no margin of error. If missile makes a slight error of like a 1 inch, that will be like 50 feet by the point it reaches it. That's how speed works. So something like that, even if it messes a bit, the missile will hit something else. I think people are forgetting. It's very easy to say, oh, hypersonic. The accuracy of hypersonic is going to matter, and that's going to be a bigger challenge, right? Because of its speed.
Still has to solve. Now here is the honest part, and this channel does not hide the hard truth from you. America's defense architecture against hypersonic missiles is the most advanced in the world. The 5-layer system described above represents decades of deployment.
It's not perfect.
And hundreds of billions of dollars in investment. But defense analysts, the Congressional Research Service, and even the Pentagon itself have acknowledged that significant gaps still exist. The first gap is saturation. A single hypersonic missile is a serious challenge, but China's doctrine does not involve one missile.
I mean, there is no defense, if you really be honest about that, unless you use lasers, 100 ship with simultaneous lasers like Locust. If you go insane like that, yeah, there's nothing gonna come close to you, right? Because laser is light speed. There is nothing, there is no hypersonic when it comes to laser. It's ultrasonic, whatever you wanna call it, is light speed. Something like that, sure. Put Locust on every destroyers, frigates, or whatever you have, and yeah, there is a defense now. But if you're not going to do that, there is no defense. Because China throws 50 hypersonic at you, how are you going to defend it? Unless you put all VLSL with SM-3s and SM-6, no Tomahawks. Use only that for defense. And use something like, like planes to do damage. If you do that, yeah, then how many missiles China going to throw at you? I'm pretty sure a carrier group any given time has 400 or 500 VLSL because 2-3 destroyer, 2-3 cruisers, right? Ticonderoga, I don't know the name, that has even more VLSL. You have probably 400 or 500 VLSL. Put all that with SM-3s and SM-6, and yeah, there you go. You're probably gonna intercept all hypersonic. How many hypersonic China gonna throw at you?
The concern is coordinated salvo, 10, 15, 20 hypersonic weapons fired simultaneously from multiple ships, submarines, and aircrafts at the same carrier strike group.
You're 100
An
of VLS,
Arleigh
man.
Burke-class destroyer carries roughly 96 vertical launch system cells.
That's just
total.
one, though.
Those cells are shared between anti-submarine weapons, land attack, cruise missiles, and missile defense interceptors. In a saturation attack, the math becomes very uncomfortable.
No, you don't have just one destroyer. You have 2 or 3 destroyers, and like I said, another cruiser with 100 and 506 VLSL. And you would even have 2 of them. The carrier group is very big, man.
Quickly. The second gap is the altitude problem. Hypersonic glide vehicles fly between roughly 40 and 100 kilometers altitude, below where the SM-3 performs best, but far above the sea level zone where close-in weapons excel. The middle zone, sometimes called the mid-course gap, is the hardest to defend. The Navy's long-term answer to this is the Glide Phase Interceptor, currently under development, with a delivery target set for fiscal year 2035. That is still a decade away. The third gap is plasma blackout. When a weapon flies at Mach 5 or faster, the air around it heats to plasma temperatures. That superheated sheath absorbs and scatters radar signals, making the missile harder to track. At the exact moment you need the most precise solution. Researchers are working on multi-radar techniques to compensate, but it remains a known challenge. The future, lasers, networks, and what comes next. The future, however, is not just about interceptor missiles. The Navy is actively...
Why can't you detect it from space? Radar waves are light speed, basically. Radar waves work at light speed. It's the lowest energy, long range, long wave things. It's radar waves. In the spectrum, is in one side, lowest energy form. But it also, travels at light speed. So why can't you detect it from, space? Because if it's a missile moving towards you, there's a plasma, but not on top, not inside. So why can't you do that? I think there is a way to do that, right?
Pursuing directed energy weapons, lasers, as a long-term answer to the magazine problem. The Helios system, a 60 kilowatt laser installed on the USS Preble, successfully downed 4 drones in a 2025 demonstration. The appeal is obvious. A laser fired from a nuclear-powered carrier theoretically has an almost unlimited magazine. Each shot costs somewhere between $1 and $10. Compared with $1 million to $10 million for a defense missile. but current laser power levels are nowhere near sufficient to defeat an armored hypersonic missile. The Navy estimates it needs around 300 kilowatts to defeat anti-ship cruise missiles. Getting to that level reliably at sea remains a work in progress. And beyond lasers, there is the question of the kill chain itself. Information is everything. The entire 5-layer defense only functions if the data flowing between the E to D,
I think we're forgetting the most critical thing. He just said, I just realized it. USA doesn't rely on aircraft carrier. Taiwan, Philippines, Marines, everybody's like spread around there, right? By the time any conflict sparks, everything will be there. Everybody will be there with different type of defenses there, not just carrier group. Not to mention Air Force will have something like an E-3 Sentry in sky with even much bigger range, right? Air Force's planes circling around, F-22s and things, which has like a very fast early detection element to it, right? Its skin is radar. There's way too many variables. It's not just Navy's defenses, right? I don't know, man. I don't see any hypersonic. Maybe I see a scenario where one hypersonic somehow hits a destroyer. Great. It's not going to be enough to be an overwhelming force. All right, well, there you go. If you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.